So we talked about various sort of thing in the previous video. We talked about the various ammonia and every type of thing. So we were talking about excretion, right? And we learned from there that excretion is not just only a process, it's to prevent the buildup of waste product in our body. The waste product in our body are so many, hardly to name some, but comes in my mind, the one that comes in my mind is ammonia. It is the biggest and most hazardous in our body. If an ammonia is stored in our body, then it messes up with our brain, it messes up with our neuron system, and it eventually leads to that. So the byproduct NH3 needs to be excreted. It needs to be taken out. And how does that do that? How our body does that? So there are many processes. I'm gonna talk about mainly three. The amoeboid, there are three. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you that. The first one, which animals, which beings have excess of water, they do that process, and energy is less. And here, what is done in fishes, there are excess of water, right? So NH3 is easily diluted and it is thrown away. Dilution occurs and it is thrown away. So NH3 comes out as it is. Now, during that process, barely any and even not energy is required. I mean, pushing out energy will be required, looking at it in logical way, but theoretically, comparatively, there are no energy required because it's just flushing out with excess of water. So NH3 comes out directly. But in animals like us mammals, which do not have excess of water but do have a sufficient amount of water, water is used to dilute the NH3. So that NH3 is diluted into urea, and that urea comes out of our body. Now during that, what we observe is excretion occurs of NH3. NH3 comes out of our body with dilution, but it requires energy as well. It requires, I think, 3 ATP. You will know that if I am correct or not. 3 ATP in this one or the upcoming one, something like that. So, lot of energy is not required, but energy is still required comparatively. And 50 ml is sufficient for that. The first one, 50 to 100 ml in this one. The first one took about 500 to 300 ml for excretion of water. I mean excretion of NH3 with the help of water. And the next one, and it is for the being we do not have sufficient water to their surrounding. They have adapted, and their adaptation came at a cost. Since birds do not have any sort of applicable water every time, so they have adapted to push out their ammonia in processed way, highly processed way, to predict it, to push it out with a less amount of water and high amount of energy. So processing takes a high amount of energy during this, but comparatively only 5 ml approximately water is required for the excretion. So less water but high energy is required in this process. And all of these are not planned. They are just just adaptation. Adaptation had led to this type of creation, and that's why I tell you, in nature there are no boundaries. Everything is flexible in its own manner and in its own condition. The water less sufficient one, the excretion and everything is just meant to push out the waste product, and that's what the body does as well. That's the thing. Thank you.